This is the story of Thumbelina. You can read along with me in your book. You will know it's time to turn the page when you hear Thumbelina's theme play, like this. Let's begin now. Once there was a tiny little girl who could fit into the palm of your hand. This dainty girl was scarcely bigger than your thumb, so she was named Thumbelina.
Once there was a maiden, so beautiful and kind. She was the smallest maiden fair that you could ever find. She was sweet and she was gentle, and she loved the simple way. At night she slept in a walnut shell. She sailed on a flower all day. Tiny Thumbelina, you could fit into my hand. I hope you find a happy place in a sunny fairyland.
In a small, quiet garden, she made her home. She slept in a nicely varnished walnut shell bed with a soft violet petal for a mattress and a warm rose petal for a coverlet. She spent her days rowing her tiny tulip petal boat from one side of the little garden to the other. As she sailed beneath the lovely flowers which grew on the banks of her little lagoon, Thumbelina was thinking how pleasant her life was. But this was soon to change. One night, as she lay dreaming in her walnut shell bed, a big, ugly toad came hopping by and saw the lovely maiden.
Well, look at this tiny creature lying asleep here. She would make a wonderful wife for my ugly son.
So while Thumbelina still slept, the mother toad snatched up the walnut shell bed and hopped back to her home on a muddy riverbank. The toad put the sleeping girl on a water lily leaf way out in the middle of the river. Then she hopped off into the rushes to tell her son the good news. In the morning, when poor Thumbelina woke up, she found herself trapped out on the water.
Oh dear, what has happened to me? How did I get here?
And when she saw that she couldn't escape, Thumbelina sat down on the water lily and cried most bitterly. The little fish swimming in the water below heard the crying. They knew what the ugly mother toad was planning, so they took pity on the sad, tiny girl. The fish chewed through the tough green stalk of the lily and let Thumbelina float down the river far from the ugly toads. At last her leaf boat stopped against a mossy bank in a strange forest world. She had no way to travel farther. So all through the summer, Thumbelina lived quite alone in that enormous wood. She wove a bed from blades of grass and hung it neatly under a leaf, where she was sheltered from the rain. For food, she had honey from the flowers. For drink, the morning dew on the leaves. And so she passed the summer and autumn. Then came winter, the bitter winter. All the birds flew away, and the flowers withered. The great leaf under which she had lived shriveled to a faded yellow stalk. As Thumbelina searched for a new shelter, it began to snow, and every snowflake that fell on her was as if a whole shovelful were thrown on one of us. So delicate and tiny was she. Wandering through the cold, Thumbelina came at last to a field mouse's door. Down below the stubble of a large cornfield, the field mouse had a fine, snug house with a whole storeroom full of corn. The kindly mouse had just come outside to gather moss for the fire when she found Thumbelina shivering at her door.
Oh, you poor little thing. Well, come into my warm room and have a bite with me. Oh, then you won't be so cold on your way home.
Thank you, kind mouse, but I have no home.
No home? Oh, we can't have that. If you promise to keep my house tidy and tell me stories, then you may stay the winter with me. How's that?
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
So Thumbelina made her home with the field mouse and spent a happy time that winter. It would have been perfect, except for those evenings when the tiresome Mr. Mole came to visit. He wanted Thumbelina for his bride. "Marry me and you will be well off, my little sweet potato,"
It's true, Thumbelina.
said the field mouse.
He dresses well, and his house is even snugger than mine.
"Ah, yes, indeed, my sweet. You can live with me in my nice, dark, underground home, away from those ugly flowers and butterflies and sunshine." But Thumbelina loved the sunshine and everything there, so she paid no attention to the mole. One day, Thumbelina found a poor swallow, all numb with cold and almost dead. She took it to a little cave for shelter. She wove a fine big blanket of hay, and she spread it over the swallow and tucked some cotton wool in at the sides. She brought him water and the petal of a flower and took care of him all winter long. When she was not caring for the swallow, Thumbelina spent her time spinning and weaving her wedding gown with the help of some spiders. Even though Thumbelina still disliked the mole, the mouse had decided they should wed. And to please the mouse, who had been so kind, the girl obeyed. Although the field mouse kept saying how wonderful the marriage would be, poor Thumbelina grew sadder and sadder as the wedding day drew near. She would have to say goodbye to the sun and the flowers, since the mole did not care for them. When spring arrived and the sun began to warm the earth, Thumbelina went to the cave and helped the swallow step out into the pleasant sunshine. The swallow was anxious to fly again, but he could not bear to leave Thumbelina, knowing that she would soon be living underground forever with the mole.
Come with me, Thumbelina. You can sit on my back, and we shall fly away to the warm countries where it is always summer with lovely flowers.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yes, of course I'll come with you.
So she climbed on the bird's back, settled her feet on its wings, and tied her sash firmly to his feathers. Then the swallow flew high up into the air, over lakes and forests, high up over the mountains of everlasting snow. At last they reached the warm countries, where grapes grew on sunny walls and slopes, and lemons and oranges ripened in the groves. The swallow flew on, while the country became more and more beautiful, until at last they came to an ancient palace of shining marble, standing among green trees beside a blue lake. Here, the swallow flew down with Thumbelina. He placed her on a broad flower petal, and there, in the middle of the flower, was a handsome little man no bigger than herself.
Welcome, fair maiden. I am king of the flower sprites.
Hello, Your Majesty. I am Thumbelina.
You are indeed lovely, Thumbelina. Long have I searched for someone like you to share my kingdom. Will you stay and be my queen?
Thumbelina knew at once that he was the husband for her, so she answered,
Yes, I would love to.
Then the tiny king gave Thumbelina his crown, and all the flower sprites came out to greet their new queen. They presented her with a beautiful pair of butterfly wings, so that she could fly with them from flower to flower. Such rejoicing as there was then! At last Thumbelina knew she had found the place for her.
Somewhere there's a tiny prince. He's handsome, good and kind. He is just the prince that Thumbelina wants to find. He's strong and he is gentle, and he loves the simple way. He and Thumbelina will be happy all their days. Tiny Thumbelina, you could fit into my hand. I hope you find a happy place in a sunny